Jesus said that the parables were sort of like riddles. He said, hearing they would not hear, and seeing they would not see, lest. And the word lest is it's kind of like saying, God forbid if they heard and if they saw with their hearts that he might heal them. So he's almost making a sarcastic statement about lest they might be healed. And the precept is that they're too proud to accept that they need his help. Um, now, yeah, interesting that when he starts out the parable of the 10 virgins in Matthew 25 verse 1, he describes five wise and five foolish. So I have to ask you, as a Christian, is it are we responsible for the foolish ones? Are we responsible for people who don't know? Jesus said, "Take up your cross and follow him." And when he took up his cross, he said, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." In saying that, he uh, forgave the sins of many because of their lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. And he just characterized it as they don't know what they're doing. Forgive them, Father. So now, in the parable, he starts off and he says, five were wise and five were foolish, and the five wise bought extra oil in their lamps. Now, we have to ask ourselves, at the end of this parable, we know that there is worldly wisdom and that there is a godly spiritual wisdom. And we have to ask ourselves, was Jesus telling us that these were five virgins who were spiritually wise? Or did he say that they were wise and he left that up to our interpretation? So, as we progress into reading about the parable, they're waiting for the bridegroom to come. Now, it's interesting because uh, I know a lot of people assume that these people were not really, they were strangers. They were all strangers to the bridegroom, to the bride. They were just a random group of eligible young ladies who had happened to be meeting and waiting for the procession. They didn't know each other and they weren't related to anybody in the family, apparently. We have to assume this because um, if they were all potential family members, then what happened when the wise said to the foolish, whose lamps had gone out? What they asked, "Give us of your oil, for our lamps have gone out," which is to say, share your oil with us. Our lamps have gone out, and they said, "No, lest there not be enough for you and us also, lest there may not." Is an interesting characterization in Jesus' story because he's not saying there won't be enough if we do. He says, lest there not be enough, lest there may not be enough. Do you understand? It's very important because Jesus is wording in these parables, he's wording them to be like a riddle. And we have to get in and kind of live the part of the characters in these parables in order to comprehend where they're going. So I ask you, when they said, "Lest there not be enough," it seems like they didn't really know each other very well because if they were supposed to be family, they were all going into a wedding procession, but they were going into a wedding celebration. And it seems odd that they wouldn't just automatically uh, connect with the other bridesmaids and just as a group share collectively. Uh, I think that's what would have happened in our day, in our time, had the 10 virgins, whether five were wise or five were foolish, whether 10 virgins would be waiting for the bridegroom in our time. It would be very odd to say, no, there may not be enough. Um, in fact, it's more likely that if there was a concern that there might not be enough, they would say, just wait here with us till the bridegroom comes, and then we'll see what he has to say. Keep in mind, Jesus' first miracle was when they ran out of wine, was to uh, to perform a miracle and make more wine. And yet, in Jesus' parable with the 10 virgins, there's this concern that when the bridegrooms arrive, well, there won't be enough. There may not be enough. And so the wise say to the foolish, go into town and buy for yourselves. Now, he says afterwards, and those that were ready went in with the bridegroom. So we have to ask ourselves, well, there's a riddle. He doesn't say those five wise went in with him. He just said those that were ready. So as they were going on their way to buy the oil, it's quite possible that the pathway that they were leaving on was the same that the bridegroom was arriving on, and he might have met them on their way to buy the oil. Now, I say this because I've studied this quite a bit, but it only makes sense that um, that Jesus is not uh, late by man's terms in delaying judgment. It says he delays judgment so that he gives everybody a chance to make it. And yet, in the story of parable of the 10 virgins, it's assumed that the foolish virgins who went to buy oil then came back and arrived late, and they were not permitted in. So um, these are young girls. Jesus has cleverly told a story about young girls who are, if they're foolish, they're just not allowed into heaven. This is the metaphor they're going with. That can't be. That can't be. Jesus doesn't operate like that, and uh, and Jesus is only going to treat you like a stranger if you treat other people like a stranger. And the advice to go into town to buy for themselves was totally the wrong advice. That was the foolish advice, if in fact they are the ones at the end of the story who were not permitted into the feast. It would have been far much more wiser for them to all say, let's wait till the bridegroom arrives, and then see what he has to say. For all we know, that bridegroom had all the oil, all the oil or olive orchards that anybody could have, and they had all the oil that they needed, and could have easily taken care of what they needed. Not only that, but he was late, and yet at the end of the story, those that were late, it appears, were not permitted in. However, if the bridegroom met the foolish virgins on their way to buy oil, and he took them into the wedding feast through the front door of the of the facility, and those who were waiting, the wise ones, the wise by worldly standards, were waiting. And they heard the music and they came. It would make total sense that they were not permitted in because that's exactly how they treated those foolish by worldly standards, foolish, by sending them in to buy oil for themselves. You see how it's a fascinating parable. And if we look at it there, open it up and unpack it this way, then you can get an idea of what Jesus' point is. And it is to give to those who would borrow from thee and turn not away. That's exactly what he says in plain as day in another passage. Um, uh, and so you could Google that. I don't have it on the top of my head. But give to those who would borrow thee and turn not away. Ask not again. This is what people do when they have family. And we're supposed to treat each other like family. And that's the whole point of this parable, is that they were getting ready to have a wedding, and the two families were coming together to become one family. And yet, some of the five treated the others like strangers when they were asked to share. Isn't that remarkable? lesson in that parable because it's a problem with the whole world. There's such a concern that there may not be enough for us and you also. That said, um, you know, you don't have um a God-given right to take what belongs to somebody else. And if that was the attitude that the foolish virgins had, then they deserve not to get into the wedding feast. But what if they were the groom's side of the family or the bride's side of the family? Or that wedding's off to a shaky start. Anyway, hi. I see some folks tuned in, Stacy, and I'm glad you're paying attention to this. It's a parable of the 10 verses in Matthew 25, verse 1. And hope if you missed the first parts that you go back over and check it out. At any rate, um, there's so many parables that open up like the parable of the 10 virgins. And I thought I would go live and try to just explain it out as good as I could and see if it wasn't any folks that might be um, just out there checking in. If you like what I have to say, if you were interested, please subscribe to my channel and share my post, and make sure you comment. And I look forward to hearing from you. That's it for now. Have a great day, evening, and look forward to you checking in the future. Bye now. Ma, I'm not supposed to be live now. Huh.